Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talk of the Town podcast. If you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. So we're on the road to 100 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. If you love daily uploads, rankings, sports news, sports betting, anything at all in the sports world, it's all right here on the Talk of the Town podcast. So I promise you, your subscription will be well worth it. And in today's video, we're going to be reacting to the Packers and Commanders game briefly at the start of the video because we had slips for Sundays back for our second week of that. A couple of parlays hit last week. For week one's always weird. Sports bettors hate week one. Anyone in sports just hates week one. They don't hate week one in terms of watching it, but a lot of upsets, a lot of weird stuff that goes on. So it can be upsetting for some teams, especially some teams that go into the season with a lot of promise, and you're like, ugh, week one. But week one, you always take with a grain of salt. And yep, I give you guys my three favorite bets, my three games to stay away from, and a crazy bet. And yeah, I give you guys my parlays, my slips for that, and that'll be it for today's episode. So let's actually get into today's episode, starting with the Packers versus the Commanders last night. Man, that was kind of a knockout punch from the Packers. I mentioned yesterday, whoever wins that game is going to feel like, okay, they take the major leap into being the second best team in the NFC. I still think if J.J. McCarthy pans out, I think the Vikings are going to be a problem. The Rams, if they can stay healthy, are going to be an issue as well. I think the Lions, I am not sold my stock on the Lions. I definitely think the Lions are still a really good team. Last week they had nothing go in their favor. And Packers, one thing with the Packers, they've started both of their games at home now, which is definitely a major advantage. I think that's, I mean, no matter what, whether they started, I don't know, their first two games away, I think it would have made a difference in their performance. You start your first two games at home with all the hype coming in now, the Parsons trade and all, you're going to play pretty good. You have your fans backing you and everything, so not a lot of nerves coming in with that, really. Of course, they're still nervous, but it wouldn't be quite like if they're getting booed out there and the other team, is out there just getting all the praise in the world out there, the cheers and stuff like that. That definitely puts a lot more pressure. Start your first two games at home, so I'd like to see the Packers play an away game for one as well. But even still, this team is going to be contending. And that defense, one of the things I said about the Packers defense that kind of worried me coming into this season was even with the Parsons trade was their secondary, but their secondary is flying around everywhere. If their secondary plays well on top of their pass rush, that's already good as it is. Yeah, this team's defense is just going to be ridiculous. And that's the thing with Green Bay, even throughout the Aaron Rodgers years and stuff like that, their defense has never really been great. Like, they've always kind of not really found that niche for defense or that feel for defense. And offense, they've always had, I don't know, they've always had a feeling for their offense. Green Bay has. Their offense has always performs well. I mean, it just goes to their quarterbacks. You went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to now Jordan Love. And even if Jordan Love, I'm not saying he's Rodgers or Favre, but he plays like an all-pro quarterback. So you're still going to you still have a very, very good quarterback. Whether or not he lives up to those two is a big task. But regardless, even if he doesn't, he's an all-pro level quarterback, and that's really all you can ask for. And that's a pretty good transition regardless. There's still teams out there looking for an all-pro quarterback that haven't had one in a ridiculously long time. So, I mean, that game just kind of felt like a knockout punch from the Packers last night. One thing with the Commanders, I said that worried me, especially when they traded Brian Robinson, who, even if they had Brian Robinson, I'd still be concerned with anyway. Last year, I was still kind of concerned with it, was the running back room. Jane Daniels took a couple of hits last night. I was like, oh my gosh. You don't want your quarterback taking any hits, whether or not it's Josh Allen, Prime Cam. I mean, guys that are built like linebackers, Ben Roethlisberger, hits catch up to him eventually. It doesn't matter how big you are. These guys are coming in fast and just lightning speed, and they're like over just ridiculously in shape human beings coming and flying at you like no tomorrow. And Jane Daniels is we know he's not the biggest quarterback in the world. I mean, he is a very slender build. I mean, even Lamar Jackson isn't necessarily the biggest quarterback in the world, but he looks significantly bigger than Jane Daniels does. And that's definitely worrisome. And they don't have a running back for him. Now with Eckler getting hurt last night, it was a non-contact and looked like an Achilles injury. He's not a very good running back anyway. We know in terms of just giving him the ball and saying just run it, he's not very good. We've always known he's been more of a pass-catching running back. And even then, he's kind of lost some of his pass-catching abilities as he's just getting older, especially now this Achilles injury. We may never see Austin Eckler play another football game or a meaningful football game for him ever again. He's already slowing down significantly anyway. So it's worrisome for the Commanders not having a running back room, and it's only dwindling. I think relying on a 6th-round rookie and Krosky Merritt is a lot to ask. I mean, they are really, really high on that guy. I haven't seen much of anything from him, to be honest with you, to this point. So maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe it takes a couple weeks for him to really get the trains on the tracks, or get the train on the tracks for him to get going. So we're gonna have to see, but it is definitely worrisome. I think the Commanders, I said they could be extremely disappointing coming into this year. Cliff Kingsbury's offense, people, especially NFL professionals, scouts, stuff like that, do not like his scheme on offense. He plays a very soft offense, which you go out there, you see it out there on the field. When it works, he looks like a genius. Last year, their offense looked great, but I don't know, man. I'm not high on the Commanders coming into this year. I think they'll be competitive. They could definitely make the playoffs, but their division's tough. The Cowboys are definitely not a walkover team in that division, and plus it's a divisional game. People who think the Cowboys are going to suck, I think, are really going to regret saying that, because I'm not saying they're going to be a playoff team or a Super Bowl contender by any stretch, but the Cowboys are not going to suck. They're not going to be a walkover team. I don't think that the Commanders are necessarily, that much better than the Cowboys. I don't think it's like night and day difference at all. So I think the Commanders could really, really be in some trouble. We seen it last night. They were never in that game last night. Maybe the score was close at some points. It was a one-score game, but they never felt like they were fully in the game. They had any positive momentum. So, and to the Packers' credit, man, the Packers' offense is humming. That defense, Micah Parsons looked borderline unstoppable last night. Even the plays that he didn't necessarily, he could make a statistical on a sack, a half a sack, anything. The pressures, man, you just feel him coming at you. I can only imagine, and it's just that trade that's not aging good for the Cowboys. The 2 first-round picks, depending on who they get out of it, it may look great, and it may look really bad if they go out there and those picks completely flop. So the Cowboys, though, I bet are wishing they kept Micah Parsons, because he is playing like ridiculous on the Packers right now. No training camp with the Packers, nothing, and he's just out there doing his thing. So the Packers really proved, I said this yesterday, that whoever wins this game, it's going to feel like they really are in that next category in the NFC of feeling like they're a Super Bowl contender. I feel like the Vikings, if J.J. McCarthy pans out, the Vikings roster is loaded. I think the Vikings could absolutely be in that echelon of the Packers and stuff like that. I really want to see the Packers play the Vikings. I think one thing that's also worked out to the Packers' advantage, their first 2 games were at home. And I'm not necessarily out on the Lions either. The reason why I mentioned that is because they played the Lions last week. Everyone's now out on the Lions, sitting there saying they're like a 7-win team. I'm absolutely not. The Lions are loaded with talent still. When you're going against a team that has a ton of hype coming into the season in their stadium, nothing is in your favor. And now, that being said, that you can't have everything in your favor to win a football game, but we all know the vibes were up from the Packers last week, man. I think the Packers could have played Philadelphia or anyone else, and they would have won last week, to be completely honest with you, in week 1. They just had everything. Their momentum and stuff was just all there for them, and they played against the Commanders in their stadium last night. So I think that has definitely helped the Packers having 2 home games to start off the season. So no, I'm not necessarily saying that's the reason why they're winning. They're playing great football, but I think that is a part of it as well. I'd like to see them play an away game, whether I don't care who it's against, whether or not it's against Minnesota. I forget, who do they play next week? I'm gonna have to look it up after I record here, but that'll be interesting to see who they play. I'm assuming they'll have an away game next week after having 2 straight home games. So Yeah, man, the Packers really feel like they are up in that or in that upper echelon of teams after the first 2 weeks in the NFC. So, and just in general, and all in the NFL, AFC and NFC, but especially in the NFC, they're going to be they're looking like it's going to be in the NFC Championship here in January. So now let's get into my slips for Sundays. For one, before I get into the parlay aspect and talking about my three favorites and three stayaways, one thing I want to start doing for slips for Sundays, I am looking for a partner to come on the channel, professional sports bettor along with me as well. Um, to come on and we talk about, the spreads for the games, his favorite games, my games, kind of go back and forth talking about which ones we like the most. Definitely looking about adding that element to my slips for Sundays. I think you guys would really enjoy that. And I'd love it too to come on here and talk with somebody and, a close friend, whatever it is. And that would be really interesting. I've reached out to a couple of people, we've been talking and stuff. So I think in a few weeks, Slips for Sundays is going to have a special guest with it every single week. And, we'll have we'll talk about reacting to the Packers and Commanders. Well, not necessarily the Packers and Commanders, but you get my point, the Thursday night football games. And yeah, man, Slips for Sundays is going to be, it already is. I love doing it, but man, it's going to take that next step up of really having, the fun element of having two people going back and forth. So that is definitely something upcoming for Slips for Sundays. So if you're excited for that, let me know. And let me know some thoughts. If you have any suggestions or anything, let me know. And let's get into my three favorite and three stay away games. I'll give you guys the parlays with it as well on the screen. So let's start off with my three favorites. I have the Rams versus the Titans is my first favorite. The Rams really feel like, the heavy hitters here in this game. I know people say, the Titans defense, they do have a really good defense. I do like their defense a lot, but the Rams, that Titans offense is a lot to overcome. It is a serious, just, it doesn't feel like a mountain. It feels like Mount Everest. Like if it's not just some mountain you see in the distance. Like this is some just giant obstacle for the Titans to overcome all season. I think their defense is going to play well, which is going to make the score look better. But I think in terms of the winning games, man, the Titans are really going to struggle with that offense, that offensive line. One of the things with the Rams is the Rams defense is so young and they are just so fast out there on the field. You watch them, they look like them in Denver. They just look like the fastest defense in the league. Like they have guys flying around everywhere. And I guess you could throw Green Bay in that echelon now. The Rams defense, they just fly all over the place. They had the Texans and CJ Stroud just completely shut down last week, and they were doing it last season as well. They don't necessarily have players you can go out there and just name tit for tat, but dude, you can go out there and just watch. And it's like they're just so well coached on defense, just as a whole unit, even on offense. McVay just has that team just so well coached. And you go out there and you watch it, man, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough for Tennessee to score. And I think that's going to lead to Cam Ward throwing a lot. I think he's going to get around 19, 20, 21 completions. That's why I have him over 18 and a half completions. Definitely taking the 5.5 spread. Again, I think I don't think the score is necessarily going to be 35-7, blowout or anything like that, but I think it'll look closer. I don't think it'll be like 14-10 or anything like that, but I think this game's going to finish around maybe 21-10, around that range. I'm definitely taking the spread there, though. I think this game's going to finish around 21-10. That's around the score I have for it. Puka Nacua, like him for 80-plus receiving yards. He had well over 100 yards last week. Stafford, 200-plus. Stafford just goes out there and slings it, even though the Tennessee defense is good. I think him and Devontae are going to go out there and really, really show out. Tony Pollard, I think if they get in the red zone, they're going to avoid passing at all. I think the Titans will get in the red zone a couple times, and I think we'll see Pollard probably get in. Pollard had some breakout runs last week. He's been pretty good for the Titans. He hasn't necessarily been the breakout running back we've been waiting to see necessarily from Dallas. Remember the year he took over the reins in Dallas as the running back, we were like, okay, this is the year Tony Pollard's going to go out and prove he's a top 5 running back in the NFL, and it was pretty disappointing. But he's definitely had some good years with Tennessee, and I think they get in the red zone at all, Tony Pollard is going to be their go-to down there. And yeah, definitely taking the Rams spread. I think they're going to win the game pretty comfortably. Not necessarily a blowout, but comfortably. My predicted score there is 21-10. I'm going to take Cam Ward over 18.5 completions. I think, especially when they're down, they're going to want to see him passing. I think with Cam Ward, for one, they want to see him passing the ball. They want to see what they got. And I think one with Cam Ward is he made some pretty good throws the receivers dropped. Now, whether or not they go out there and do the same, I don't know. But still, they're not going to drop all those balls all the time. These are NFL receivers, and it was week 1. The receiving corps isn't necessarily the best, but they're not awful, but they're pretty bad. But they're going to go out there. I think he's going to want to throw his checkdowns, whether it's not the Pollard or whoever, Conquo, it doesn't matter. So I think we'll definitely see. He's going to have to get that ball out quick against that Rams defense, and I think he'll definitely do that. And that leads to a lot of completions. Whether or not he gets 19 completions for 90 yards or whatever, I think we'll see him get a decent bit of completions. Nacua, we know Stafford loves Puka Nacua. Kind of wanted to play it safe. He had well over 100, but I didn't really want to go over 100 because I do like the Titans defense. Feel comfortable with 80+. Stafford, 200+. We know he loves slinging it. He'll throw a couple deep shots, and a couple of them will get completed, and he'll be well over 200, I think. And Pollard, again, in the red zone, anytime touchdown score there. So that's my Rams and Titans parlay there. $10, 140 if you decide to put 20 or even more. 20 is 280. So however much you decide to put in, I feel that's a pretty comfortable parlay for me there. One of my stay away games here is the Seahawks versus the Steelers. Man, that Mike McDonald defense is a tough defense. We know he coached a historic Ravens defense a few years ago, and the Seahawks defense played very well against San Francisco last week, and they played very well last year. He's going to coach that defense to be very good, and Aaron Rodgers is a statue back there in the pocket. I don't necessarily like the Steelers, anything on the Steelers offense at all. To be completely honest with you, they're going to put a lot of pressure on Aaron Rodgers back there, and whether or not the running back room in Pittsburgh can really get anything going and really produce in that offense is really up in the air. It's pretty questionable. Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson, and who that? They had Kenneth Gainwell back there, so kind of a mixed bag there in the running back room for the Steelers. I don't feel too comfortable with their offense coming into this game, so same kind of goes with the Seahawks. The Steelers defense didn't play great last week. They looked really good in the fourth quarter. They looked a lot better in the fourth quarter, should I say, than they did at the first half, the first 3 quarters of the game. The last hit with Jalen Ramsey, they had a good last couple of drives the defense did for Pittsburgh. So I think they'll definitely be better than they were. Sam Darnold, he played in a very average game. I think he literally threw like 150 yards, no touchdowns. He just played an extremely average game last week, and that was against the 49ers defense. The Steelers defense, if they play up to what we know they can be, I think is better than the 49ers defense. So I don't like that game. There's nothing that I look at in that Steelers and Seahawks game coming in to make it a parlay, betting on the spread. I think the spread was like 3.5. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. That game could come down to be very close. I think it's going to be kind of a slugfest. I'm not seeing any momentum with any offense coming into this game. I think it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a slugfest game. This could easily go Seattle's way. This could easily go Pittsburgh's way. Not necessarily easily, but either way, you can't really pick a side here. They both have weapons on offense between Metcalf and JSN and Cooper Kupp. Jonnu Smith for the Steelers. They have decent receivers on both sides. I'd say the Seahawks definitely the better receiving room, but both defenses are really tough, and that's kind of a weird matchup, the Seahawks versus the Steelers. So I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with betting this game. I'm not finding anything positive about betting on this game, to be honest with you. So this is a stay away for me for sure. My next favorite game to bet on here, I have the Broncos versus the Colts. I have the Colts taking a big step back from what they had last week against Miami. I think Miami is legitimately one of the worst teams in the NFL now coming into week 2. And the Broncos didn't play the greatest game last week, but Bo Nix did not look great last week at all. He did not have a good game. He had a really, really bad interception, one of the worst I've seen in a while. I think the Colts are going to take a big step back. This Broncos defense is, again, one of those with the Rams defense. They just fly around everywhere. They are everywhere on that field. And it's just, I really love their defense. I think they're going to shut Daniel Jones down. The Dolphins defense last week is pretty putrid, to be completely honest with you. So the Broncos have all around way, way better personnel than Miami does. Pretty much just all around coaching. Maybe the receiving core goes to Miami, but it didn't matter because they didn't do anything last week. So, it's just all around. Man, the Broncos, I really like them a lot more. Of course, I got my parlay right here on the screen. The Broncos money line, the spread, I didn't necessarily like the spread for the game. Just because I think it could end up being closer. Not necessarily close, but closer. I had this game finishing around 24 to 14 or 24 to 17. That's around where I had this game finishing at. I had the Broncos money line. Tyler Warren, 3+ receptions. Daniel Jones loves his check downs, loves getting it out. We seen Tyler Warren last week get 7 receptions. I didn't take his yards. I just like the receptions a lot more. I think he's the security blanket. Whether or not he breaks out for a lot of yards, it's going to be hard to do against this Denver defense. Of course, he can catch the ball, but in terms of getting that yards after the catch, it's very tough against this Denver defense. The Jonathan Taylor rushing yards, I like him for 60+. I think they're really not going to want Daniel Jones throwing the ball a ton. They're going to rely a lot on Jonathan Taylor. I think he can break out a few decent runs against the Colts, or against the Broncos. And I think you're going to see him with around probably, I was going to go maybe 70+, but I feel comfortable with 60+. And again, that defense is really, really good. He's going to be handed the ball a lot. Bo Nix, 32+ passing attempts. The defensive line for the Colts is actually pretty good. And Bo Nix threw the ball a lot last week. I forget his exact amount of pass attempts, but I think it was around 40. He may have had 40, but it was well over 32. And I think Sean Payton wants to run a pretty pass-heavy offense, I think, with Bo Nix. And that was against a pretty tough Titans defense, so I think is better than the Colts defense. Even though the Colts defense played well last week, I don't necessarily think they're going to play as good this week against the Broncos, to be completely honest with you. I think the Colts all around are going to take a big step back from what they were last week, so I feel really, really good about betting on this game. Jonathan Taylor, anytime touchdown score again. That's a defense tough to throw on in the red zone at all. Tough to throw on anywhere. And, they're going to be handing it off to Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor didn't have a touchdown last week, but they gave it to him a ton in the red zone last week. I mean, he broke off. He was a yard shy from a touchdown like probably 4 or 5 times last week, it felt like. So, yeah, I definitely take him get a touchdown this week. Feel comfortable with that. And yeah, that's my Broncos and Colts money line. Feel good with betting that. $10 gets you $100 on the dot. So feel good about that game. That's my second favorite game of the week here. The next stay away game here, Browns versus Ravens. Trust me, I've watched about every single Browns versus Ravens game within the last, 21 years old. So I guess as far as I can remember, at least probably within the last 15 years or so, I've probably watched about every Browns and Ravens game known to man. Here in a Ravens household, I mean, I'm not a Ravens fan, but live in a Ravens fan household, and Ravens fans surround me everywhere I go here where I live at. So, divisional game, they always play bad against Cleveland. They do not play good against Cleveland. I don't care how bad Cleveland is, whether or not it's with a terrible Deshaun Watson who beat them. Deshaun Watson beat them. They don't. It's not necessarily they don't play well, but Cleveland plays very good against Baltimore. Joe Flacco coming in here, playing against Baltimore, kind of maybe not necessarily a revenge game. He said he didn't necessarily want it to be a revenge game. He loves Baltimore. It was his time to come out. We knew that. Made a lot of money playing at Baltimore, won a Super Bowl, but it has that revenge element aspect to it. But, I just do not feel comfortable. I've watched, again, like I said, a lot of Browns and Ravens games, a lot of choke jobs from the Ravens, quiet second halves. The Browns come in and come fire, and just inconsistencies everywhere. One second you have a team that looks great, whether or not it's the Browns, and they fall back down to earth, and the Ravens pick it up, but they look great. I guess you can say that for any game. It's just a momentum changer. But those games, the Ravens always seem to just go completely quiet for just a long stretch of time. And they blew it against the Bills last week. Now, Buffalo and Cleveland are far, far from each other in terms of talent on their teams. But I mean, we see what the pass rush was doing to the Ravens. The Browns, Myles Garrett, he was tearing it up against Cincinnati last week, and the Browns don't have a bad roster. They don't have a good roster, but it's not a bad roster. They have some good players on that team, and they seem to always play good against Baltimore. So this is not a cupcake game for the Ravens, and it's always a strange game between these two. That's why I don't like betting on it. You have players that was it Tillman or whoever it was last year against Jameis Winston, man, just tearing them apart, dude. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I don't like this game at all, betting on it. I think a lot of people I've seen on DraftKings, people took the Ravens 97-3. There's a 97% to 3%. I wouldn't be so comfortable betting on the Ravens this game. Now, I would take them to win if I had to pick a team, but I'm not 97% comfortable with taking the Ravens in this game. I've watched some weird Browns and Ravens game in my lifetime. Trust me, I've watched pretty much every single one the last 15 years, as far back as I can remember, because they play here every single week of my life, pretty much. So every Browns and Ravens game that has been on the last 21 years has been on in this household, I promise you. So, yeah, it's weird games. Yeah, I don't like that game. So that's my second stay away game. My last favorite game here of the week. I was kind of surprised for some people. It's the Jags and the Bengals. I really like betting on this game. Both defenses, not great. They definitely upgraded on talent, though. Maybe not necessarily the Bengals defense upgraded on talent, but their offenses are pretty good. Trevor Lawrence played a really good game against Carolina last week. I know it was against Carolina, but I think he's definitely have a way better year than Trevor Lawrence. Whether or not he turns out to be the generational prospect is very questionable, but if he just plays a good season, that's all you can ask for. I think he could be a very good quarterback. So that's kind of what I'm banking on. This one, $10 for 90. So I'm taking the Bengals money line. I do think the Bengals are going to end up winning this game. Not taking the spread. I think this game is going to be very close. This could be a shootout game. These offenses are very explosive for these teams, and two really good quarterbacks. Joe Burrow is definitely better than Trevor Lawrence, but in terms of potential, we know Trevor Lawrence can be up there with the best of them. There's no doubt in terms of athleticism, in terms of just potential, any of that. Trevor Lawrence is up there with the best of them. Whether or not he can play to it is up in the air, but definitely going to take the Bengals money line. Brian Thomas Jr., 60-plus receiving yards. He had 11 yards receiving on a catch last week. He had a lot of targets, though. He had a ton of targets last week. Weird week one. It's whatever. This Bengals defense, Brian Thomas is going to go out there and light it up. I feel it's 60-plus receiving yards for him. If you feel like upping the receiving yards, if you feel like you want to get more money, more bang for your buck, that is up to you. But I feel comfortable with 60-plus right there. Trevor Lawrence, 2+ passing touchdowns. Again, Bengals secondary is not great. Really feel like I feel pretty comfortable with that. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a really good game. Joe Burrow, 230+. We know Joe Burrow's going to be throwing on the Jags. And Jamar Chase, anytime touchdown scorer. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase didn't have the best game last week. But again, you go into week 2, man, you have these star-studded players going into after a weird, wonky week 1, and you have people sitting there saying, okay, well, they kind of suck. They come in and always perform in week 2. So, well, I guess not necessarily always, but majority of the time they do. So I feel very comfortable with that game. I think the Bengals are going to end up winning that game, to be completely honest with you. Feel good about that. And yeah, those are my 3 favorite parlays for this Sunday coming up. And my last stay away game here is the Eagles versus the Chiefs. I would take the Eagles to win this game. Not necessarily to take the spread or anything like that, but I would take the Eagles to win. But in terms of what we've seen last time, man, the Chiefs look kind of broken right now. I think it'll fix itself, I think. But yeah, they don't look great, man. The Eagles manhandled them last time, obviously, in the Super Bowl. And this Chiefs team kind of seems worse than they were in the Super Bowl. They have a lot of injuries, still no Rashee Rice. I don't think Xavier Worthy's playing in this game. Dislocated shoulder. Old Kelsey. I mean, I don't know, man. That kind of worrisome. The Chiefs played very good in the second half against the Chargers, though. So that's kind of the only optimism I'm holding out. But Eagles can play anything like they did with a fierce pass rush or anything. Chiefs might be screwed, dude, to be completely honest with you. Their defense didn't look good at all last week. They got carved up, and the Eagles' offense was humming last week. So, yeah, I don't feel comfortable with that game at all. Former Super Bowl matchup there. I would not bet on that game. I would not bet on that game. If you were to bet, I'd maybe bet heavy on the Eagles. I would not bet anything on Kansas City, though. And even with the Eagles, even with betting on the Eagles, man, it's weird because you don't know the Chiefs are not coming out and play. They played terrible last week. They didn't play terrible, but they didn't play good at all last week. And you really don't know what you're going to get with this team right now. Everyone's kind of the question mark is there with the Chiefs. We do not know what's going to happen with the Chiefs this season right now. So I don't feel comfortable with betting on Kansas City or Philadelphia this game at all at 425. So those are my three stayaways, my three favorites. Of course, right now, I'm going to throw out my crazy bet right here on the podcast. $10 for $1,133. I feel like this is your best bet to win big here. I'm usually pretty good at these big bets. So pretty solid 70+ rushing yards. You guys can read it here on screen. I don't necessarily have to read it out to you guys, but feel pretty good about that, actually. That is not a bad bet at all. So if you're feeling like, you know what, hey, got a little extra money, feeling good, maybe go for the big bucks, here you are right here. Make sure to put that in and let me know how it goes. Well, I'm putting it in as well, obviously, for my bets, but I'll let you guys know how it goes on my socials and definitely talk about it on my podcast. If it hits, every crazy bet that hits, I'm definitely talking about it here on the podcast. So, yep, that is it for my slips for Sundays. 3 favorites, 3 games to stay away from, and my crazy bet for the week. Reacted to the Packers versus the Commanders, and I'd say this was a very good episode, like it always is, people. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you put in any of these slips for Sundays, let me know which one you guys put in the comments. I'm very curious to see and to hear, and I can't wait to see what happens with these parlays, man. Feeling good this week, people, and have an amazing weekend, everybody. See you guys on the next one.